This is the easiest, fastest, and best way to make a WordPress website. You don't need to know any code, and you can create something that looks like any of these sites in just about an hour. So the first thing we need to get you set up with is an affordable hosting plan. So if you follow my link below in the description, or if you just go to wesmcdowell.com/hosting, we can get started. Okay, so once you follow that link, you'll find yourself on a page like this one. It may look the same, it may look a little different by the time you get to it, but just want to show you what you're going to be getting here. So a free domain for the first year, your free .com email address, an SSL certificate, that's super important for Google, and all this other stuff that's going to make it super easy to use. So, and you'll notice we've got a deal of $199 a month here. I don't know if that's going to remain the same or if it's going to go up a little bit, but either way, you're getting a deal by using this code that you wouldn't get without it. So if you see $199 a month, I would jump on that price because I think my regular deal is more about $295 a month. So anyway, we're going to click on Get Started Now. And here's where you select your plan. I would say for 95% of you, basic is just fine unless you have the need for e-commerce or anything like that. So I'm going to click on Select. And now here's where it's asking you if you already have a domain, right? Like yourbusinessname.com. If you already have that and you want to carry it over, you'll type it in here and click Next. If you don't and you need to buy one, you're going to type in the domain name that you want to buy right here. Something like that. And then you choose if you want a .com or any of these other extensions. I always recommend .com. It's just easiest for people to remember. So you're going to see if it's available by clicking Next. And this one happens to be. If it says it's not, then you just have to try again and maybe get a little bit more creative with the name you're going for. Other than that, you're going to fill out all of this information here. You'll choose your service term. So you do get the best price by sticking with 12 months. So I'm going to stick with that. And you'll see that you're getting that domain name for free for the first year. But if you're bringing your own over, that doesn't apply. I'm going to go ahead now and uncheck all of these additions. We don't need them. And you'll see we're getting a full year of web hosting for under 24 bucks. Not too bad. Then pop in your payment information, and I'm going to uncheck this because I don't want emails from them, and then click on Submit. Okay, so the purchase went through and it took about a minute just to build out WordPress, and we wound up right here. So we're going to skip over all of this stuff and we're just going to go up to Exit to WordPress and click on Exit. And that's going to bring us right here to the WordPress dashboard, and this is where all the fun happens. Before we get into actually building the site, you do need to know a few things inside the WordPress dashboard here. I'm just going to go over them pretty quickly, just the stuff that you really need to know. So everything important is going to be over here on the left sidebar, and we'll start with posts. Think of these as blog posts, or if you have a podcast, any kind of content you're adding in over time, that would be considered a post. And to create a new one, you would just click on Add New, and you add the title, and then you can just start typing it here. We're not going to get too into that today. There's plenty of YouTube videos that'll show you how to create a blog post. But for now, we're just creating a whole site. So to get back to where we just were, you'll just head up to the WordPress logo. And under posts, here's where all your posts will live once you've got some. Obviously, you haven't made any, so it's empty now. Next is media. So this is where all of your images would be. But don't worry about this. We'll be adding images one at a time as we start building. But once you do that, and then you want to see where they all are, you just click here and you go to the library and you'd see all of them at once. Now pages, this is where all of your, you guessed it, pages will be. Things like your homepage, your service pages, your About Us page. And if you ever want to add a new one, you would click on Add New right here. If you ever want to see all of them in one view, you just click on All Pages and you'll be able to see them. Comments we're going to skip over. I actually don't recommend having comments enabled on most WordPress websites. It's just going to lead to a lot of spam. So we're just going to skip over it. Nothing to do here. Now appearance, this is where you set your theme. The method we're going to use today, we actually don't have to set a theme. It's going to take care of it for us. Now we're going to skip over plugins for now. We're getting right back to it. Let's go to users for right now. So this is going to be really important if you ever want to add someone else to your WordPress website, like if you have a developer or if you have anyone else on your team. And if that happens, you would just go to Add New, and you'd come up with a username for them, their email address, just fill all this stuff out. You don't have to fill out website, and then you can create your own password, or you can use the one that it came up with for you here, depending on the role you want them to have. If you want someone to actually be able to contribute to your website in a meaningful way, they probably need to be administrator or editor. But only make someone an admin if you really trust them. For everybody else, editor should be able to do the job just fine. And then you click on add new user. Now let's go back up to plugins. This is going to be really important. So if you don't know, a plugin is simply something you add to your WordPress website that extends its functionality and helps it do more things. For instance, in our case, we're going to be adding in a plugin that's going to act as a drag and drop page builder. So you can create this whole website starting with these really nice templates without needing to know any code whatsoever. So I'm going to go over to add new, and I'm just going to go up to search. This is where you'll search for stuff that you need. And I'm going to type in starter templates and then search. And this is the one right here. So whenever we add a new plugin, we have to click on install and then activate. Now we're just going to go over to installed plugins, and we're going to find starter templates right down here. And we're going to click on see library. This is going to show us all of the different templates we can start from. So we're going to choose Elementor. This is by far the best page builder I've ever come across. Super easy to use. So just going to click that right there. And as you can see, they've got tons of these pre-built templates, and some of them are noted as premium. That means you have to pay for them, right? But a lot of them are actually free. And I do want to kind of make something clear here. So a lot of these are set up, they have a very specific purpose for them, like web designer portfolio or fashion photography portfolio. So what I say though, just choose the format that works best for your content. There's nothing saying this has to be for a fashion photographer. There's nothing saying this has to be for a politician. That's just the words they've put in here to make it that way. So find the overall format and layout that will serve your content the best. And by the way, don't worry if nothing's perfect as is. They probably won't be, but I'm going to show you how to customize anything. So we're going to choose this one. It's called Planet Earth. It's nice and clean, so I'm just going to click on that. And here it's asking for your logo and everything. Don't worry about that now. We're going to add that in later. I don't want to slow you down in case you don't have a logo just yet. So I'm going to click on skip and continue. And here we've got some really cool options. So these are the default colors, but we can click on any of these and it's going to change them around. Now, don't worry, we're not locked into any of these. You can absolutely choose your own colors, and I'll show you how to do that when we get into it. But for most of you, if you're not really too familiar with creating your own website, you're probably going to be better off just choosing something here that's ready to go. And I actually think these are some pretty good combinations here. And then we can do the same thing with the fonts. So this has a nice font combination picked out. Jost, it would be the heading right here, and then Roboto would be the text right here. But obviously if we change these around, you can see it happening in real time. And again, you can change these to any fonts you want, anything that is available on Google Fonts. By the way, there are thousands of them, which can actually be pretty overwhelming. That's why I recommend probably sticking with one of these. They're designer vetted, so you really can't go wrong with any of these combinations. But I put it back on Jost and Roboto. I think that looks pretty nice. And then I'm going to click on continue. And I'm actually going to skip over all of this. It's not necessary, and do not click this unless you want to get email from them. But make sure all of these are clicked. That's all important to the build process. And then click on submit and build my website. So what's happening now is they're adding the theme, they're adding all the different pages and all the different styles so that you have something really nice and clean to work with. And it just does take a couple minutes here. All right, so just 22 seconds later, we've got it. Now we're just going to click on view your website so we can see what we're starting with. Now, before we get going, I do just want to let you know at any point you can change the global colors and fonts if you need to, just by going up to make sure you're logged in to WordPress, and then you're just looking at your site as a visitor like we are now. We're not editing it right now. We're just looking at it. So from there, you can just go up to customize, and then under global, we have typography. So here's where you can choose all those different font combinations again, or add your own from Google Fonts. So headings font, this would be these headings, and body font would be all of this stuff right here. And you can change that to whatever you want it to be by clicking the little pencil. And let's just see what else we've got here. Let's just choose something random. And you can see that that change took effect. Let's just put it back on Roboto for now. And you can do the same thing with the headings right here. But let's go back, and you can also do the same thing with the colors. You can choose all of your colors right here, or you can just do it one thing at a time as we're editing. It really doesn't matter. This is just kind of a nice clean way to make sure everything's edited at once and feels cohesive. But we're not going to worry about that just yet. We're just going to click on back and back again and publish, and then we'll exit out of here. But now for the fun part. This is where we actually get to customize this website to make it look however you want it to. So the first thing we're going to do, again, make sure you're just logged into WordPress and we're viewing it like this. and then just click on Edit with Elementor. Okay, so here is our first glimpse at what the Elementor dashboard looks like. So right away, I'm just going to clean some stuff up. I'm going to get rid of this navigator. I don't think that's necessary to have. It just kind of clutters it up. Now, right away, you'll notice this is split into two distinct sections. We have the right side, which is the canvas essentially, which is where we can edit everything. And then on the left, this is where all of our widgets are, all of our different things that we can kind of drag over. This is where our editor is. And if at any time you just want to get a nice preview of what you're looking at, we can close the sidebar just by clicking that little arrow, and that brings our menu back. They do hide the menu when we're editing, so if you're wondering why you don't see it, that's why. So that covers our two sections here. Now, when it comes to our canvas area over here, the important thing to understand, this is all built through a series of sections. Okay, so this top part is a section, this next part is a section, this is a section, and so on. They're basically stacked one on top of each other. Within sections, we have columns. This is a 3-column section. This is a 2-column section. And within columns, we have widgets. This would be a heading widget right here. This would be an image. And the way it works is you find the widgets over here, you find what you need, and then you drag it over where you want it. And that goes with all the widgets. So I'm just gonna right click here and delete. I'm gonna get rid of that. But here we have everything. We have headings, images, text editor, which is what this is, video even, buttons, dividers. That's kind of like a little divider line. Some websites use that just for a little bit of embellishment. You can drag a Google map over, or an icon, or even a contact form. And there are all these Pro widgets that you'd need Elementor Pro to use, so you can't use those. But then we have a bunch more under here. We will get into some of these a little later, but for the rest of them, I encourage you to just kind of play around and see what they can do for you. For the sake of keeping things very simple, we're just gonna get going right now, styling up the top section, which is what we in the biz call the hero section. So let's take a look at what the different pieces of this are. So we have a background image back here, we have a headline, we have a secondary headline, and we have a button. So just to show you your options, let's say you didn't want this endless potential line, you just wanted a main headline. All you gotta do is right click, delete. Simple as that. And on a Mac, you can do a Command Z to undo that. We'll just bring it back. You could reorder things. Like maybe you wanted this to be above. You can just drag it right above there. Changing the text is really easy. Just click on it and then go over here on the sidebar, and that's where you type in whatever you want it to actually say. And then we do the same thing right here. And you can also change the style of it. We'll get to that in just a second. Before we do though, I'm gonna show you how to change the background image. So that is a section style. So in order to change anything with the section as a whole, it'll come up here to these 6 dots, and then we'll go over to style. For background type, you've got some options. You have classic, which is where you can just choose an image, or you could even just choose a color if you wanted to. Like, let's say we want it to be black, we would just come over here and just choose the nice black, and there we go. But I actually do want an image to be there, so you'll just click on choose image, and you've got a lot of options when it comes to images. You can pay for them on stock websites, you can provide your own, or they actually provide you with a lot of free stock images. So you just click on free images, and you can type in anything you wanted right here. Happy family, for instance, something like that. And then you would just choose whichever image you want, save and insert, and there you go. Or let's say you've already got an image that you're bringing to the table. So just click on choose images again, and just go to upload files. And now you just have to find the file you want to use on your desktop and then drag the file over here. And then that's gonna upload it for you. I happen to have actually uploaded my images already just to save time. So I'm gonna pick out this one and select. And I think that looks pretty cool, but there's a few things you can do to tweak it even more. So, but under position, if you didn't like the positioning of the image, you could change it around. There's a few settings here, but I generally just go right to custom. And let's say like we wanna change it, we want it to be a little, off to the center or something like that. We can do that here. Yeah, you can just play around with it. I'm gonna put it back on the default. And attachment, so this is something interesting. It's set on scroll to where when you scroll down the page, it stays kind of in the same position. I like when it's set on fixed. That way, when you scroll, everything scrolls past it, which I think is just kind of a cleaner look. And you just want to make sure these are set to no repeat. That's going to stop it from tiling, basically. And display size, you want it to be on cover. Because if you did something else, let's see if it'll do it, like on contain, you'll see the black bar, like it's only as big as it is. And then if we do on repeat, it tiles it. So we don't want that. We're going to click on no repeat and cover. All right. And you do have some other options with background images. You can do a gradient. You can do a video even. If you find a cool ambient video on YouTube or something like that, you could do that, or a slideshow of several images. But in most cases, I do recommend just having a really nice photo in the background. I think that does the job without slowing your site down too much. Now, you will notice it's a little hard to read this text now that we have the background that we do. So what I want to do is click each of these one at a time, but this time rather than changing the text, we're just going to change the style by clicking right up here, and text color, I'm going to choose white. And just so you know, this is where you can change the font and all that good stuff too if you ever wanted to. You just click on typography under family, and then you would choose from literally thousands of Google fonts right here. So yeah, that's why I just recommend sticking with what they give you, which is what we're going to do. Weight, you can make it bolder if you want, but I'm going to do a Command Z and put it back to where it was. You can make it to where it's not all uppercase. It's set in uppercase now, but you could do just on default, which would make it just however you type it in, or capitalize, which makes the first letter capital and nothing else. But I'm just going to put it back in uppercase. I like the look of it. And now we're just going to do the same thing with this line. Click it, style, and then just change the color to white. And if you ever run into a situation like this where the text is kind of hard to read on the background, all you have to do is choose the section, go back to style, and then under background, we have background overlay. So let's go ahead and open that up. And this is where you can add kind of a transparent layer over it. You see it on a lot of websites where it kind of darkens it up. So we'll click on background type. You can do a gradient, but be careful with that. I've seen it go sideways quite a bit. So I'm just gonna choose a solid color, and I'm just gonna choose a simple black. And then here's where under opacity, you can make it as opaque as you want, like to where it's all black, or down to 0 where it's not there at all. It's up to you just to find that good equilibrium of where the image still is able to pop, but more importantly, so are the words. So I'll just leave it somewhere like this. And one thing is bothering me here. I feel like I want all this to come down slightly. So in this particular theme that we've chosen, there's this element right up here. It's blank. But if you click on it, you can see it's a spacer. That just means it's there just to take up some space to push this stuff down. So if we make it bigger, that will push it further down to where I think it looks a little bit nicer. So that's just an option we can always do. And if we want to get a preview of it, let's go ahead and collapse the side panel. And now we can see what we're working with, which I think looks pretty nice. All right, let's open it back up, and now let's get to work on our button. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with your button. If you go over here to content, here's where you can type in what it says. Here's where you set the link. So if we wanted to type in contact us, the site kit template that we created already created a contact page, so it's already found it for us. So we just have to click here, and it'll go right to that page whenever you click on it. You can change the alignment, like so, but obviously it does belong in the center there. You could add an icon to it if you wanted it to be a little more unique. So just click right here where it says icon library and maybe look for an arrow, something like that. Insert, and then right here it's set at the beginning, but if we wanted to go after, which I think makes more sense, we'd go over to icon positioning and then click on after. We can adjust the spacing, we can make it like that, or we can make it close like that. I'm just gonna delete that to have it go back to the default. And obviously we can style it too. What if we don't want it to be this color? Well, let's go up to style, typography. This is where we can change the font. If you wanted to do that under family, just choose whatever fits, but we're gonna keep it as is. Text color, what if you wanted it to be black or something else? You just click here, choose whatever color you want, but I'm going to put it back on white. By the way, anytime you choose another color, let's just choose something like this. If you want to go back to where it was, just click on clear. And obviously you can do a classic colored background like we have here, or you can even do a gradient. So if you want to click on classic, you can choose any color you want to, but I'm going to put it back to where it was. Or you could do a gradient where you can choose 2 colors, and I might actually do that. So I'm going to click right here, and then I'm just going to type in a color that I found. And then whenever you have a color that you're bringing into your website and you know you're going to want to repeat it, all you have to do is type it in once. This is what we call a hex code. You just click on the plus sign, and then that will allow you to save it for later. And you can give it a color if you want. I'll just name it magenta. Create. That way you can use it later if you want to. But it's not a gradient yet because we only have the one color. So let's go over to this color, and I'm going to type in a different color code, and then I'm going to go ahead and save that one as well, which I think looks pretty cool. And then you can also do things like you can change the angle of it so it looks more like that. You can change it around to get it to how you want it to be. I think that looks pretty cool. And there's a few more options you can do too. So under border type, you can just click on solid. That's what I would recommend if you're going to do a border on it. Anything else I think looks kind of funny. So just choose the width of it, Then border color, if you wanted it to be white. You could do a border radius, which rounds the corners. Like you can see it's rounding it right now. And you can even go all the way up to where it's more like this kind of a pill shape. But I'm gonna undo those things. And here's another way you can undo stuff, by the way. Just go down to where it says history. It's this little backwards clock icon. And you can just click through and go back in time to all the different changes you made. This is really helpful if you want to go back like several steps. Okay, so I think we've got this hero section looking the way we want it to look. So before we move on, a really important step, we're going to go ahead and click on update. You want to do that periodically to make sure it saves your work. Because trust me, it's a big bummer when you work really hard and then something crashes and then you don't have your work anymore. But let's go ahead and move on down to our next section. What this particular site kit gave us is kind of like a services section, or it could be used as a benefit section. And don't worry if you don't need this, if it's not what you want. I will show you later how to delete sections or add anything new you ever need to, or reorder stuff. But for now, we're really just concentrating on how to customize content. So we already know how to customize text, right? You click on it, and then over here, you add the new text. And we know how to change the style too by going to style, and you can change the color of the text. You can change the font. You can make it as bold as you want, or uppercase, lowercase, all that good stuff that we already went over. But for now, let's just talk about how to change out images here when it's not a background image. So all you need to do is click on each one. Then we'll go over under content to choose image, and we'll just choose this one right here, select, and I'll do the same thing for these other two. Okay, so we've got 3 new images now. The problem is they're pretty tall, right? And sometimes you're gonna add in images that aren't even the same size. So like maybe this one would only be up to here and this one would be long. So there's an easy way to make sure that they're all exactly the size you want them to be and equal. And to do that, we're just gonna choose each image. We're gonna go up to style and then under height. So here's where we can just drag this to any height we want. And don't worry, it is stretching it. You'll see that it's stretching now. But what we'll do is we'll fix that in a second. So just get it to be roughly the size you want it to be. And then under object fit, we're gonna choose cover. And that's gonna put it back to the right dimensions. And then if it doesn't show the part of it you want it to show, you can start kind of playing around with it like this until you get it to the right position. But I'm gonna put it back to center. And then what if we wanted to actually round the corners here? That's something that a lot of modern websites do. So in order to do that, we're just gonna go down to border radius, and we're just gonna start bumping that up until it looks like how we want it. If we wanna see it without the border here, we just collapse the side panel. And I think that looks pretty nice. So now we could do all those steps for these two as well, or we can just make it easier on ourselves. We can right-click this image, copy, then come over here, right-click, paste style, and one more time, right click, paste style. That comes in really handy when you're changing a lot of text and styles. Let's say you wanted to change this, to purple and you don't want to do it, you just would right click once you've got it, right click, copy, right click, paste style, and then again. But there's actually more we can do here. I want to show you a few things. So let's say you wanted to swap this column for this column, super easy to do. You just click right here. This is like the column icon. So you're just going to click on that and drag it over to the position you want it to be in. And I think I overshot it there. Let's go and try that again. There we go. And by the way, these columns don't all have to be equal here. So if you go to the middle where you get this kind of icon popping up, you can just drag and you can make the first column bigger than the second column and so forth. You can make it be however you want it to be. So super customizable that way. I'm just gonna go ahead and do some Command Z's to get everything back to where we had it. And you can delete a column, right click here, delete. Or if you wanted to add a new one, just make sure you're clicking on the column, right click, duplicate. So you're never locked into what they give you. I'm just gonna go back and get it how we had it, and maybe switch this column back for some nice symmetry here, color-wise. And you can even do the same thing with whole sections. So let's say you would rather this About Us section be on top of this section. Easy to do, just click on the whole section, right? Again, it's these 6 dots rather. Just hold and drag, bring it right up to where you want it to go, drag and drop, and now that section is above that section. But I'm going to Command Z and put it back. All right, so moving down the page, we've got our About Us section. Now we already know how to swap out an image, so let's go ahead and do that right now. Just click on it, then choose image. I've got this one, we'll select that. And maybe we wanted to round the corners again, so we'll go to Style, And then border radius, we'll just make sure it more or less matches what we've got up here. That looks pretty good to me. But one thing I'm noticing is we've got a lot of white here, a lot of white space, which is not a bad thing, by the way. That can work out really nicely. A lot of websites do that. But sometimes it's nice to go from section to section and have a little bit of separation between them. A really good way to do that is just through a background color. So what if we wanted to just make this whole section black? I'm going to choose the section, then go up to Style, Background Type. Again, we've got all these options. I'll show you some of these a little later, but for now we'll just choose Classic, and then here I'm just going to choose black. And then of course that means our text isn't easy to read, so I'm going to click on our headline, Style, Text Color, we'll choose white for that, and we'll do the same for this text right here. Just click on it, Style, Text Color, white. And what if I wanted a little separation between this and this? We could add a divider line. Super easy to do. Just click right up here on the grid. That'll bring up all of our widgets, and you can always search for stuff here. I can see that it's right here, but if we wanted to, like, I can just type in divider, and then there it is. I'm just gonna drag it right between the headline and the text. And I think the problem is it's probably styled to be black. So I'm gonna go over to Style and Color, and here's where we can choose. Remember how we saved some colors? Whenever you want to reach one of your saved colors, click here on the little globe icon. It says Custom, and I'll just choose our magenta one right here. We can make it thicker if we want through weight, and then under Content, we can adjust the width. We can make it, just about like that if we want. So this brings us to a really important thing we need to discuss now, which is margins and padding. So notice there's a few things going on here that don't look great. There's very little space between the image and the outside of the section. Compare that with this much space, which looks a lot nicer, right? One thing about web design, it's all about giving people enough breathing room to feel good spending time on your site. This feels cramped. This feels nice. Like this whole section just feels like your eyes have a place to go, as opposed to here where everything feels tight. So what we want to do, we want to give this more breathing room, and notice how much space there is here. There's too much space here. So I'm going to show you how to control these things, and it's really easy to do. So the first thing we're going to do is handle this space right here, which we call padding. Just think of it when you open a box and you've got something inside and it comes with those like packing peanuts. That's padding inside the box surrounding the contents of the box. It's a really easy way to remember. So we're going to choose the whole section. We're going to go up to Advanced. Don't let that worry you. It's not that tricky. And we're just going to go under Padding. So you'll notice if we start adding more padding to the top, it does it all the way around because the values are linked through this right here. So I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to click here to unlink the values. So now we can start playing around with the sizing and the spacing just on top to get it about where we want to be. And I think we want it to be around 80. Then we'll repeat that on the bottom, not on the sides. The sides are fine. They're in line with what we have up here, which is how we want it to be. Okay, so that takes care of one problem. But what about this issue right here? So we could adjust it from the line, or we could adjust it from the text itself. So let's see what we've got going on here. I'm just going to click on our text, go up to Advanced. So now we want to talk about margin. So we know what padding does. If we added padding, it's going to add more of those, packing peanuts around the text here, but we don't want that. What we want to worry about now is what's outside of the box. Right now there's too much margin there. And yes, it is set to 0, but we can go in the negatives with it. So again, we're going to unlink the values. We're going to go to bottom margin, and we're just going to go into the negatives until it looks about how we want it to look. And I think that looks pretty good. Now let's just try clicking on the line here, going up to Advanced. We might want to give a little less space between the line and this text now. So again, margin, we're going to unlink the values. Then on bottom, let's just go ahead and get it to where it looks good to the eye. And I think that is looking pretty good. But since we've made this background black, you'll notice something funny going on here. So we have this section, which has a background, but then we just have this weird white section here. What do you think might be causing that? I think there's too much margin on the outside of this section. Sometimes you have to dig in a little bit to see what's going on, but let's choose this section. We'll go to Advanced, and yep, so that's what we got going on here. We have 80 pixels of margin on top, and then we have 100 on the bottom. So all we need to do is get rid of that, and now this next section suddenly kind of comes right up to the edge, which is what we want. Okay, so now let's talk about our next section here. We already know how to edit the text. Obviously, you click on it, You edit it over here. You can even change the colors of it. And the button, we could do the exact same thing that we did. We can take all the same steps we took up here, or we can right click copy and then just go down here, right click paste, and then just right click this and delete it. That way we don't have to do the same work twice. I'm always up for shortcuts when possible. But I feel like maybe this section's taking up a little too much space. There's a lot of space on the bottom here especially. So what do? Click the section, go up to advanced, and here's the culprit right here. We've got 100 pixels of padding up top, which I think is fine, then 200 on bottom, which I think is a bit much. So let's just go ahead and make that 100, and I think that looks a lot nicer. So now let's have a little bit of fun with this background. So we've already got the section chosen. Let's go to style. We already know how to add a color. We already know how to add an image. What else can we do that's kind of cool? So let's go over to video. And what this lets us do is choose any video on YouTube that we can use as a video background. Now you do have to be careful with what you use. Not necessarily from a copyright standpoint. Generally speaking, and by the way, I'm no lawyer, but generally speaking, anything that's put up on YouTube has what they call a Creative Commons license, which means you can embed it on your own website. The trick though is finding a clip that sets a good mood and an ambiance without being distracting, without having a lot of cuts in it, without having people talking, without having words on the screen that would compete with the words you have here. So I happen to have found one that I think is pretty good right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and paste in the link. So that's all you have to do is get the YouTube link for that video and then type it in. But notice it doesn't look great now. There's like text here on screen. So the cool thing you can do though is you can actually specify a duration of that video that you want it to use. It's a little confusing because it's done in seconds. So you'd have to find the clip that you want to actually use in the video and then convert that time code to seconds. So what we have here, I've done the homework already. We have 163 seconds to 173 seconds. And I've identified that as looking pretty cool. But you'll notice it's hard to read. So we're going to add the black overlay on it. So remember, we go to background overlay, classic. I'm just gonna choose a nice black. I think that looks pretty good. And then obviously we have to change the text to be more easily read too. Now, this technically doesn't bother me, like that can be read just fine, but I'd rather it be simple. I'm gonna go up to style, and I'm just gonna make it white. And I'm gonna do the same thing with this text here. Style, text color, white. And let's take a look at what we've got. I think that's looking pretty good, but now what if this page doesn't have everything you need it to have, which happens all the time, right? These Sitekit templates do a pretty good job of having a lot of sections, but it's never gonna have exactly what you need it to be able to tell your story your way. So I'm gonna show you right now one simple way to add a new section whenever you need to. There's a few ways of doing it. We'll get to another way a little later in this video, but for now, we're just gonna click right here where you want the new section to be. So if you wanted it to be between this section and this section, you would click the plus sign right here. Now, we're gonna choose the starter templates logo. And these are full pages. We don't want that. What we want is blocks. So these are all these different content blocks that you can choose between with all these different layouts. And don't worry, yes, they look very boring right now simply because they're all black and white and just kind of text-based here, but I'm gonna show you how you can customize it to be anything you want. So one thing you can do is just kind of sort through everything and just see what you can find, or you can filter through them based on, their purpose. So I'm gonna type in features here. I wanna add a nice benefit section. They don't have anything called benefits though. We have to say features. And we'll see what we can find here. That would be a nice, easy section to customize. I'm gonna go with this guy right here. Gives us some nice icons so we can talk about the benefits or the features that we wanna talk about. And then once you find the one you want, just click on import block. So now let's just get to customizing it. So let's say, you didn't need this text block here. Just right click, delete, and it's gone. And again, let's say you don't need 4 features here, maybe you just have 3. Well, we just find the column, right click, delete, and now we're left with 3. And if you had 6, I just want to show you every option here. If you had more, you would just right click here and then duplicate, and then you've got more. So it's so customizable, and you could even do like a right click, delete here. So you could have 5 if you want. You can really do anything. It's limitless. I'm just going to get rid of this row right here. And we'll get going just customizing this. One thing we have not talked about yet is icons, and those are really important for any website. So what we've got here, these are what I call compound widgets, meaning if you click on this, it handles the icon and the title and the description all in one widget together. And you would just change the title of the feature here or benefit right here, and the description, you would do it right here, just like we've been doing. But with icons, I want to show you a few things you can do here. So obviously we can change what the icon is. We'll do that in a minute. But view, so we have framed, which is where it has a circle around it. So the other options are default or stacked. And obviously we can change all the colors of that too, but I tend to like default the best. I just think it's the cleanest. And then of course, when you go up to style, we could change the alignment of everything off to the left or the right, which I don't think would ever have much of a purpose. I think for icon, center is probably the best. And then here's where we can change stuff with the icon itself. Just click on this. We can change the size. We can make it as big or small as we want. We can change the spacing between the icon and the text, and we can rotate it for some reason. Not sure why anyone would need to do that, but there you go. It's an option for you. And of course the color. So let's go ahead and change it to our purple color that we already created, but for you it can be anything you want it to be. Now again, if we don't want to make all these changes across the board, all we have to do is right click, copy, right click, paste style, and once more. And now if you want to change these icons out, which you probably would want to do, you just click one by one under content, go to icon library, and here's where you can try to type stuff out, but truth be told, a lot of these are not named in a way that you would think of them. So a lot of times you just have to get creative looking through all of them and seeing what's going to fit the best. Let's choose a keyboard here, and then you would do the same for the others. Okay, so I think this page is looking pretty good altogether. So before we can call it done though, there is one more thing we have to do because more than half of people coming to your website are likely looking at it on a mobile device. So the way we need to make sure it looks good for those guys too is we need to go down here. You'll see this little icon. It looks like a little laptop and a phone. It's called responsive mode. We're going to click there. And then we're going to click on our mobile device here. So we can also look at tablet view and see how that looks, but I tend to prioritize mobile. You just get more traffic that way. So this is going to give you a preview of exactly what your site, and by the way, let's collapse this. That way we get all that stuff here too. This is what it's going to look like for your mobile viewers. So the good news is with the site kit and even with the new section block that we just added, those are all pre-made and they're generally pre-made in a way that already looks pretty good on mobile. But sometimes you will run into stuff like we have here, because we made this background black, so it kind of messed with a few things. So I'll show you how to make changes for mobile. Let's go ahead and get our panel back. I'm going to choose our section and go back up to advanced, because this is where we can control the margin and padding, remember. And we're not going to mess with margin, because remember, margin is what happens on the outside of the section. Padding is what happens on the inside, and we definitely need more padding here. So let's go under padding, and you'll notice there's a little mobile phone icon right here. What that means is any values we change here are only going to be changed on mobile. Everything else will remain completely unchanged on desktop, which is pretty cool. So under padding, I'm going to just eyeball this. I'm going to drag it out until it looks pretty good to me, like maybe 50 is good. Nice round number, and then we'll do the same thing on the bottom. Yeah, so to me that fixed that problem. It looks pretty nice now. Oh, but then we have that weird white gap here, remember, and that is because this section has a margin on the bottom that's not necessary. So I'm going to delete that 50 pixel margin, and that brought it right back up for us, and now it's looking pretty good. Okay, so this is looking good, and you'll do the same thing on tablet next, but for now I'm going to exit out of here. And for now, we just want to click on update. And I think it's time to move on to our next page. So the way we're going to do that, the way we're going to move from page to page here, we're actually going to click on this little preview changes button right here. We're no longer editing now, we're just viewing. So now what we can do is we can use our menu and go to our next page. In this case, it's about, and then back to edit with Elementor. Okay, so the way we're going to edit this page is a lot like the way we edited the home page, but I am going to show you some extra little tricks here as well. So the first thing that we probably want to tackle is our top section, and we're going to just add in a new background image to go with our theme we've got going here. So again, choose the section, style, then choose image, and I've got this one I think will be nice. Select that. And I think I want to see more of the sky here. So rather than position being bottom center where it's aligned with the bottom, let's do top center. I think that looks a little nicer. Now obviously this text is hard to read, so let's go ahead and click on it. We already know how to change the text, so we can say whatever we want here. Don't have to go into that again. But style, text color, and I'm going to choose white. So another thing that we need to do here, a lot of these themes, they really like these big, tall hero images, which I love that on a homepage, but it doesn't need to be the case on every interior page. In fact, I think it should be quite a bit shorter than this. So the way we're going to handle it, make sure we've chosen the section, and we're going to go to layout, and under minimum height, that's how we're going to handle this. So right now it's set to 600 pixels. We're going to make it quite a bit less. We're going to make it maybe something more like maybe 280. So let's see what this looks like with our menu in place though. Let's go ahead and collapse this. So here's the issue now. I feel like this is a little too close to this and a little too far away from the bottom. So maybe that doesn't bother you, but if it does, there's one thing we can do. Choosing the section, let's go back up to advanced, and let's give it maybe 50 pixels of padding on top. And let's see if that helps. Yeah, to me, that looks a lot nicer already. And then if you wanted finer control over the placement of the background, you just click again on style, and then we can go over to custom. I haven't really shown you this yet. So then X position brings it left to right. So just make sure that's back on 0. Y position moves it up or down. So let's just find where it looks nice. I think something like that looks great. And then whatever we do up here, you'll see as we move on to future pages, we're just going to want to keep the styles similar across the board. We want it to be roughly the same size and all that good stuff. And now moving on down, obviously we can change our headlines here. We can change our image by clicking on it, choose image, and then select. And then remember we were using rounded corners. It's important to stick with the style that you go with. So if you're gonna round the corners, you just wanna make sure you're nice and consistent about it. Ideally, you'll wanna probably remember the actual number you're using here so you can just repeat it from page to page. But what if we wanted to add something else here? You know, you go into a lot of websites and you see things like these little kind of counters. What if we wanted to bring this to our website? So it's easy to do using the right widget. So let's just go back to our page here, and then we'll go up to our widgets bar, this little grid, and I'm going to search for what's called counter. Now, if we just wanted to do one of these, we would bring it right under here, and that would be fine. The issue is we want to do 3 all next to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and Command Z and get rid of that. So we actually have to do one more step. We have to drag a container in first. So we're going to drag a container right underneath our text. And containers are something new in Elementor, and they're a little bit tricky. They're not that bad, but they're a little less intuitive than what they used to provide us with. So we just want to make sure when we're selecting our container, if we want things to be laid out like this, like next to each other from left to right, then what we need to do is the right pointing arrow. We need to choose that here. That way when we drag things into it, we drag one thing, then another thing, it'll all just go next to each other rather than underneath each other, if that makes sense. Okay, so hopefully we're on the same page there. Let's go back up to widgets, and then I'm going to search for counter again. So we'll drag our first one right in here. And before we do the other two, I'm just going to go ahead and style it up the way we want it to be. So let's click on it. And let's say we want this to say 10 plus years of experience. So starting number is 0, it counts up. So then we'll end it on 10. And here we have a number prefix. So this is great if you're talking about like dollars, you'd put that there, or a number suffix, which is great if you're talking about, percentages or something like that. But we're just gonna put in a plus sign. So it's, 10 plus years. And then under title, where it says cool number, we're going to type in years of experience. And we may have to adjust the size of these letters depending on what else goes over here. But for now, let's just go ahead and go to style. And for the number, let's make the color our magenta color. And then under title, let's go ahead. I think we may need to make that smaller. So I'm just going to go ahead under typography and make the size. I'm just going to make it big enough to where you can definitely read it and no bigger. I can make it bold if I want to. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. And then line height, I can make it a little closer. So something like this I think looks nice. Okay, so I've got it how I want it style-wise. So now we're just gonna right click on duplicate and one more time. So my issue now is I think they're a little close together, right? So let's go ahead and choose this whole container. And then under layout, we can go under justify and we can play around with the space between. So I think let's do space evenly, and that should get, space around. Maybe that's gonna be better. Let's play around with it. Yeah, I think that looks good, space between. And then you just edit each one to say what you want it to say. Maybe this one's, 50 something, and maybe this one's 12 something, whatever you need it to be. And now one thing, so notice how, let me just kind of collapse this. Notice how this image isn't really aligned with this content. I would rather the image be kind of centered with this. And that's easy to do too. Just choose the whole section, and then under layout, under vertical align, let's do middle. And to me, that looks a lot cleaner. Okay, so moving on down, we're already to the end of the page. It's already that kind of end call to action block, but that's pretty much all the content that's on this page other than, this talk to us block that we'll just end up copying and pasting from the homepage. But what if you need more content here? What if you want something a little bit more like this, like our values, then you've got kind of this bullet list of different things. I'm going to show you how to create something like this in a new way. So we've already covered how to add a pre-made section block, which is great. I recommend if you can ever find the right kind of section block for your needs, you should start there. But sometimes you're not going to find exactly what you need. But don't worry, it's really easy just to create anything from scratch too. So remember, wherever we want to put our new section, we're going to go between those two sections, click the plus icon, and then remember before we clicked the starter templates icon, that brought us all those pre-made blocks. What we want to do instead, we just want to go completely off-road here from scratch. So we're going to click on the little plus icon. And now the first thing we do is choose our structure. So basically this means how many columns do we want? And they've got some cool options here. I would recommend staying away from these. They're a little confusing. I think for now, for our purposes, all we need is a simple 2-column layout. So I'm just going to click on that. And let's take a look at what we need here. So we need a headline, we need a text block, and then we need what we call an icon list and an image over here. So we're just going to drag these things over one by one, back up to our widgets, this little grid. We're going to drag a heading, then a text editor, then what's called an icon list. So I'm just going to search for that icon list right here. We're going to drag that right underneath. And of course, we've got the image over on the right. And of course, we already know how to change our text. We've done it before, so just click on it and change it over here. Same with this. But now let's talk about the icon list because it's something we haven't talked about yet. And this is another one of those, what I call compound widgets, where you control everything from one individual widget. And notice how they have arrows here. Maybe we want to duplicate that look exactly. So what we need to do is go to the first one, and you would change the name of the list item here, and then go to icon library. I'm just going to type in arrow, see what we can find. Something like this, I think is nice, and insert. And now rather than having to do that individually for all of these, if you want them all to be the same, here's a little trick for you. I'm just going to collapse that. I'm going to get rid of these other two, just gonna X out of them. Then I'm gonna click right here to copy it until we have 4 of them. And you just go into each one individually, change the text like so, pretty easy. But now let's talk about style. So let's go up here and let's give a little bit more space between each item because I think it was looking a little bit crammed. We can even put a divider between each thing if we want to, but our inspiration here did not have that, so I'm going to turn that off. And then under icon, I'm going to set the color to our purple color just for the arrows. And if you wanted there to be more of a gap between the icon and the text, you can set that here. This looks pretty nice to me. And you can change the size of the icon too, but obviously I think that would be a bit much. I think that looks nice. Now, and we also know how to add the image. We just click here, choose image. We could just choose any old thing over here, but I actually want to show you something different. So what we're going to do, we're going to right click, we're going to delete that. We're going to do our little inspiration site here one better, and we're going to go up to the widgets, and I'm going to find video. So let's say you've got a great about us video or something, or if you ever want to put any video on your site, this is how you do it. You drag over the widget, and now you just have to make sure that your video is uploaded to either YouTube or Vimeo or any of these ones. If you're going to be doing video, I highly recommend you do it on YouTube. That way you can be found there. But anyway, that's just an aside. So you would get the link to your YouTube video and you'd pop it in right there. Now I recommend turning off the player controls just to make it a little cleaner like this. And here's something cool. I don't think most people know about this, but notice how we have all the corners rounded on all of our images. You may have not been doing that, and that's fine. If you're keeping them all, right angles, then just keep it. But I just want to show you this is possible. So if you click on the YouTube video here and you go up to advanced, just go down to where it says border and then border radius. You can make your own right here. So it matches the rest of your images, which I think is a pretty good look. And now, of course, we're dealing with another issue of padding. We need a little bit more space here so it doesn't feel so crammed. So let's just go ahead and choose this section and go to advanced. And then under padding, I'm going to unlink our values and I'm just going to give it 80 pixels of padding like so. And of course, we've got our little talk to us thing that we've already done on our homepage. So rather than going through all that again, all I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to our homepage. I'm going to find the section, right click. And what I could do here, I could do a copy and paste right here, but I'm actually going to show you something that's a little more useful. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to right click, save as template. Now I'm just going to call this call to action block and then save. That way you can insert this on any page because this is the kind of section that I highly recommend always having at the bottom of all of your pages, just to give them one last chance to get in touch here, right? So before I delete this, I'm just gonna click on the plus icon. And then, so we've already done this, we haven't done this one yet. I'm gonna click on the folder and that's gonna open up the templates. So just go to My Templates and then CTA block or whatever you named it, and then insert and then apply. And then there it is. And then we can safely just delete this one, get rid of that. And I think we're good to go. Okay, so the one last thing we need to do before we can wrap this page up is take a reality check and make sure it looks good on mobile as well. So remember, we go down here to responsive mode. We're gonna click on the mobile phone and let's just see what this looks like. So right here, this doesn't bother me that it's on 2 lines, but let's keep going and see if there's anything else that needs to be done here. I would say that I think there's more. This feels more appropriate space-wise than this does. And if you'll remember, this was the section we made from scratch. Those are always going to require a little bit more finessing when it comes to this. So let's go ahead and open this up. And I'm going to go to this section. This whole section up here, not just individual columns. I'm going to go to advanced and I'm going to see, so we have 10 pixels on the right and left of padding. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here as there. So advanced, so we have padding. I'm going to unlink and I'm going to do 10 on the right and 10 on the left. And already that looks a whole lot better. But we're also missing this padding down here. So I'm going to go back up and on bottom, let's just say 50. And I think that looks great. Now we do want to show you one extra thing here that you can do. Sometimes it helps if there's something that is just more on your website for just ambiance and for looks, and it doesn't really serve much of a purpose, something like this image, I would say, and you don't want it getting in the way of people's mobile experiences, here's what you can do. I'm going to choose this whole column. You could just choose the image, but I think I'm going to do the column. Then go up to advanced, responsive, and then hide on mobile portrait. So that way it's gone there. And by the way, you'll still see it here because you can see everything as you edit. But if you get that real-time view by getting rid of the side panel, this is what it would really look like to visitors. You can do that for anything you want. You can hide anything on desktop, on mobile, or on tablet. But I think this is looking pretty good. So I'm going to click on update and we'll exit out of here. So now it's time to go on to our next page. So I'm going to click on preview changes and I'm going to click on services and then edit with Elementor. Okay, so here we are on services, but what if you don't need a services page? What if you need a testimonials page or an FAQs page or something like that? I just want to tell you, you're in no way locked in to what they're naming the pages. You can absolutely change them and change all the content associated with it. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do on this page. And by the way, if you had services and you just wanted to customize it as is, we already know how to do that, right? So you can change the images, you can change the text, all that good stuff. Super easy to do. But for now, let's go ahead and assume we want to call this testimonials instead. We would just choose the text, pop it in like that. And remember how we changed this section on the About Us page. we don't have to go through all that again. What we can do is we can right click copy on the About Us page, then right click paste style. And that changes out the image and the height, but it doesn't change the text color because that's not a section setting, that's a setting on this individual text. So we'll just click on that, style, then text color, we will just choose white. And obviously if you wanted to swap out the background image, you can do that here too. Style, choose image, something like that. Okay, so now we've got all this content that is probably useless to us now that we've changed the page. So we're just gonna get rid of everything and start fresh. So I'm just gonna exit out of all of these different sections. So let's see what we can find in terms of a nice testimonial section from pre-made blocks. So let's just click on starter templates. Again, and then go to blocks. I always like to start and see what they have for me before I make something from scratch, simply because it's easier to make responsive, and it's already pre-thought out how good it's gonna look on mobile. So it just eliminates an extra step if you can get away with it. Now, since we're doing testimonials, I'm going to go here and I'm gonna look for specifically testimonial section blocks. Now, all these different styles you can choose from. I'm just gonna go nice and simple with this one right here, then import block. And we probably don't need this extra heading here, so I'm just gonna right click, delete. And this is another case of a compound widget. So you'd click on each one, it has the image here. So if you have the image of the person, great, you would click on it and you just choose it right here. You would upload it into your website. And then here's where you'd put in the actual testimonial text and the name of the person here. You could even put in their occupation, their city name, something like that. It's up to you. But let's say we wanted to add something a little more interesting, like a video testimonial block above it. So to do that, we would just click on the plus icon where we want it to go. If we wanted it to be underneath, we would do it here. But if we want to do it up top, we got to do it here. So plus sign again, because we're going to make it from scratch. Let's just do a nice 2-column layout again. And let's see, let's go to widgets, and maybe this one has a nice video attached to it, a nice video testimonial. And then we'll have a heading followed by a text editor. And here's something cool too. Under widgets, you can look for star rating. So that's great for testimonials, obviously. Just put that right underneath. So you'd obviously have had to have uploaded your video to YouTube already, and then just grab the link and then paste it right here. And then right here, you'd add something, like a nice little pull quote would go there. Then you'd put in the rest of it here. So if you're gonna do a video testimonial, it's nice just to have like a little piece of it in text here as well. And then for the star ratings, you can, change the rating scale, but generally speaking, go with 5 stars. That's what everyone's used to. And then under style, you can make a different size. You can make them bigger. You can pull the spacing out a little bit like so. So that's all the content, but there's a few things kind of bothering me about this. You can probably already tell there's not enough padding here. And things are not vertically centered here either, which kind of, I think, makes it just feel a little kind of unprofessional. So I'm going to pull this back out. So let's choose the section, and over in advanced, padding is what we need here. Remember that the packing peanuts around all this content and the box it's in. So let's go ahead and unlink the values, and we'll do 80 on top and 80 on bottom. Actually, we may not need it on bottom if it's going to be another white section. If there's no bounding box that's visible, you don't really need to have as much padding there. So to me, this actually looks like a pretty good use of space. If anything, I think it might be a little too much space. So choose a section again, and then go under Align Items and choose Center. And if you ever want to give a little bit more room between columns, which I think this needs, then just go under Gaps, and then under Column Gaps, here's where you can control that. Just drag it up to wherever you want it to be. Cool, and I think that's looking pretty good. Then we would just want to end the page with our same little opt-in block. So we'll go over to our folder, My Templates, CTA block, and maybe you don't have this, and that's fine. I just want to be nice and consistent with all these pages. So then we have a nice look at everything here. And again, we just want to click on responsive mode and mobile and make sure everything looks perfect on mobile as well. So let's go ahead and start scrolling down. I think it all looks pretty good. The one thing I would say, I think there might be a little too much space here. So what can we do about that? Let's choose the section, then advanced. Let's unlink the values. And that kind of messed up everything here. So let's just go ahead and do 50 on top. And then remember it was always 10 on the right and 10 on the left. And looking at this, I think what would look nicer is if all of these were centered in the middle. So let's just choose the first one and we'll go to Style and we'll choose Center Alignment. Now we'll just right click Copy and we'll right click Paste Style on all the rest of these one by one so that they all fall in line. And then we obviously just need some more padding down here. So let's go to the top of the section and we will go to padding and do 50 on the bottom. And I think this is looking pretty good now. Although maybe I want to center this now as well, now that I'm seeing it. So let's go ahead and right click there, center, style, center, and then center the star ratings as well. So I hope you're seeing how easy it is to actually make these changes that are only going to affect how it looks on mobile, and things on desktop will remain unchanged, which is a really cool feature, seeing how so many people are actually accessing your site on mobile. So let's click on Update. Okay, so one thing that's important to know here, so we've changed this page to testimonials, but if we collapse that, sorry, and this is really hard to read on this background, I know, but it still says services, if you can see that. How do we change that? So let's go ahead, we're gonna have to exit Elementor for a second. And the way we're gonna do that, we're just gonna click these little 3 lines right here and then exit. Then we're gonna go to pages. So this is all the pages that we currently have. So services is the one that we just changed the name of. The only thing we need to do to have it reflect in the header is go to Quick Edit and change the title to whatever you want it to be. In our case, testimonials, and then slug, I'm gonna change it there too. And then update. Now let's go ahead, let's just go to our homepage and just view it. And there we go, we got testimonials right there now. So that covers how to change a page, but what if you need to add a page from scratch? Like what if you need 7 pages and they're really only giving you 4 here? Well, I'm gonna show you the easiest way to do that so you don't lose your formatting and you can keep everything nice and consistent. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back to the WordPress dashboard, and we're going to go down to plugins, add new, and we're going to search for a plugin called duplicate page. And this is the one right here. We're going to click on install and then on activate. So what this lets you do, this plugin makes it really easy just to duplicate an existing page where you've already got, your header and all that good stuff laid out. So you don't have to go through too many extra steps. So here's how you're going to use it. You're going to go to pages and then just all pages. So let's say that you want to create an FAQ page. The first thing you can do, if you know it's going to have a similar layout to one of your other pages, you would go ahead and choose that as the page to duplicate. So this is the duplicate that it created. It says Draft Elementor. So we're just going to click on it and you'll change the title here to whatever you want it to be. For our purposes here, we'll say FAQs, and then click on Publish so that it goes live, and then Publish again. And then if we click on Edit with Elementor, we can see what that looks like. It should be a perfect copy of the About Us page, which it is. So then you would just change the title up here, and then you could just either change the content one by one if you know it's going to be similar, or you just delete everything and you start over from scratch. So yeah, it should be a perfect copy of the About Us page. So you just want to change the title up here, of course, and then you would change any of the content down here, just like I've showed you before. You just click out of anything you don't want, and then you add in a new section. And then you would click on Update. Now, there's one thing that we still have to do here. So we've added this FAQs page, but you'll notice it's not showing up here in the menu. It doesn't do that automatically. So how do we add it to the menu? Pretty easy. We just go back up to the WordPress dashboard, and then under Appearance and Menus. So here are all the things that we have in that menu right over here. Over here, this is all your pages. So to add the new one, which is FAQs, we're just going to check it right here and then add to menu. From there, you move it into whatever position you want to, and then you would click on Save Menu. And let's check it out. Let's get a view of it. So we just go up to My WordPress and then Visit Site, so we can just see what it looks like to your visitors. And now you can see your FAQs page is right up here, but this doesn't look so great, does it? It's hard to read. This isn't your logo, obviously. So how do we actually change this? How do we change the header? We do it a little bit differently than what we've done so far. We don't actually take care of this inside of Elementor. What we have to do is go up to Customize and then Header Builder. So you've got the site title and logo up here. That's represented by this. And the primary menu is right up here. So basically they're giving you the option here of a triple decker menu where you can put elements on top of each other as well as in 3 columns. So we have the primary menu here, which is right up here, and site title and logo over on the left up here. Now you can move things around, like you could move the logo up here to the middle and then the primary menu underneath that. I've seen that before, but I almost always recommend just keeping things nice and simple with the site title and logo here and the menu over here. That's just what people are used to seeing on a website. And the more you lean into what they're used to, the easier time they're going to have navigating it. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start customizing this because I know you want to add your own logo here. So the way you're going to swap this out is just go over here on the left where it says site title and logo. And over here we have 2 different logos. So we have the normal logo, then we have the option for adding a higher res one for people with a retina display. So if you have that, great. For now, we're just going to turn this off. So we're just dealing with this one logo here. And I'm just going to click on change logo and then to upload files. And then here's where you'll just find your logo file on your computer and you'll drag it right into place. And if you're going to have a transparent menu like what we're working with, you definitely want the logo itself to have a transparent background. That would be a PNG file. So if you don't know how to do that, if you have a designer, you just want to ask for a PNG file, or if you're creating it in Canva, it allows you to do that yourself. That just means the background is transparent. And then we're going to click on select and we're going to skip cropping. And there it is right up here. Now, I'm running into some issues. So if you want to change the width of it, you do it here. Unfortunately, it's kind of stretching it out here, but don't worry. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on publish. I just want to show you what may go wrong for you and how to fix it. So once you click on published, we can refresh the page and it will come back looking right in the new size. I don't know why it does that. But anyway, going back to the header builder. So now we need to talk about this menu up here. We definitely want to change the colors so it's easier to read. And the way we're going to do this, we're going to go down here to transparent header, not here, but here. So let's click on that and then up to design. And then all we need to do is find where it says menu color. We have text and links. So we have the black color here, and then we have the green color that's showing up right now on any pages that you're on. If you're on this page, it's showing up green, as well as when you mouse over it, it turns green. So let's go ahead and just choose a simple white here. And then for this, let's go with our color combos. Let's just do this magenta here. Nice and easy. But we're not quite done yet, right? Because we still need to make sure that this menu and the logo and everything looks good on mobile as well. So this is going to be similar to how we did this before. We're going to go down to the bottom left and we're going to choose the little mobile icon right here. So to me, I think the logo looks pretty good and I think this looks pretty good. But if you wanted to change the colors in any way, all you have to do is go down to where it says toggle color. So you can change the background to, anything you want. Maybe that looks a little better here. So if we expand this though, there is this weird button here that's not doing anything. And that's because we have off canvas. That's what this is referring to. We have the primary menu and then a button. So if we want to get rid of the button, just click here and it's gone. Let's check that out. There we go. Then you'll just want to do one last reality check on tablet and make sure that looks good in exactly the same way. And once you like it, just click on publish. So we're almost done, but if you want a contact page with a working contact form that customers can fill out to get in touch with you, this video is going to take you through that final step. So click here and let's get this all wrapped up.